Well, we have an update to a story that we brought to you yesterday about In-N-Out Burger moving their headquarters to Tennessee. We're now hearing back from the company, but a quick recap if you missed the story in a recent podcast.
77 years in California, 431 locations built on California's love for double-doubles. And the billionaire CEO just announced she's moving her family to Tennessee. In-N-Out Burger saw this disaster coming. In July 2025, Lynsi Snyder, the sole owner of a privately held company worth $7.3 billion, announced she was relocating her headquarters and her family to Tennessee after spending her entire life in California. She didn't say it was temporary. She didn't say it was exploratory. She didn't frame it as testing markets. She said California made it impossible to raise her 4 children there. The woman whose grandparents invented California's first drive-through hamburger stand in 1948, who inherited the company at 17 and spent her entire adult life defending California's most beloved brand, just told California she's done fighting to stay when the CEO of California's most iconic burger chain abandons the state that made her a billionaire, that should have been front-page news everywhere. Every California newspaper should have run investigations asking what went wrong. Every California politician should have been forced to explain why one of the state's most successful homegrown companies decided to leave. Instead, California politicians stayed completely silent, whilst Tennessee rolled out red carpets and threw celebrations. In December 2025, In-N-Out opened 3 Tennessee locations in Lebanon, Antioch, and Murfreesboro. The lines stretched for hours before opening. Traffic backed up onto Interstate 40, creating chaos local police had spent months preparing for. People drove from Mississippi, Arkansas, and Kentucky just to try In-N-Out for the first time. Someone created an entire dedicated app called waitapp.com, tracking real-time wait times, because people were routinely waiting 45 minutes in drive-through lines 2 full weeks after opening. Tennessee Governor Bill Lee personally welcomed In-N-Out, saying they knew from the first meeting that the company would thrive in Tennessee. California got silence. No response from Governor Gavin Newsom acknowledging the loss. No statement from state officials about what California could have done differently. No acknowledgement that one of California's most beloved companies just declared California economically unlivable for families and businesses. Just the same policies that drove them away, continuing completely unchanged, whilst another iconic California brand plans its entire future somewhere else. Here's what nobody is telling you about why In-N-Out actually left. This isn't primarily about taxes alone, though Tennessee's 0% state income tax versus California's 13.3% certainly helped the decision. This isn't just about housing costs, though Tennessee's median home price of $350,000 versus California's $80,000. $120,000 made a substantial difference. This is fundamentally about California declaring war on a company that refused to become the vaccination police, then acting surprised when that company decided to leave after years of fighting. Let me show you exactly what happened chronologically and why Lynsi Snyder spent years desperately trying to make California work before finally giving up completely. In-N-Out Burger represents something deeper and more meaningful than fast food in California culture. The chain has 431 locations across 10 states, but 281 of those locations sit in California. That's 65% of their entire footprint, concentrated in one single state. Your childhood memories of California probably include In-N-Out. Your first date might have been at In-N-Out. Your late-night cravings after concerts, beach days, or sporting events were satisfied at In-N-Out. The distinctive red and white color scheme, the palm trees, the simple menu that never changes, the secret menu everyone knows about, the animal-style fries, the protein-style burgers. The whole experience is fundamentally and uniquely Californian in ways that transcend food. Harry and Esther Snyder founded In-N-Out Burger in Baldwin Park in 1948, creating California's very first drive-through hamburger stand and revolutionizing American food service. They built an empire on fresh ingredients, delivered daily, never frozen beef patties, hand-cut fries made from whole potatoes, and a simple menu that deliberately never expanded beyond burgers, fries, and shakes. They refused to franchise, despite countless offers worth millions, maintaining absolute quality control across every location. They paid workers substantially above minimum wage when competitors were paying less. They created a company culture emphasizing quality, consistency, and treating employees well that inspired fierce loyalty from both employees and customers for generations. In-N-Out became more than a restaurant chain. It became a California institution, representing everything good about California business, California food culture, and the California dream. Lynsi Snyder is the granddaughter of founders Harry and Esther Snyder. She inherited the company at age 17 after her father, Rich Snyder, died tragically in a plane crash in 1999. She was suddenly thrust into running a multi-billion-dollar business as a teenager, still grieving her father's death. She has spent her entire adult life running this company, defending it fiercely against franchising offers worth billions of dollars, protecting the quality standards her grandparents established, and building In-N-Out into a cultural phenomenon recognized worldwide. She loves California deeply. She was born in California. She was raised in California. Her entire identity, her entire family history, her entire business legacy is tied inextricably to California and In-N-Out. So why would the woman who owns one of the most beloved brands in California history decide to leave the state that made her family? Because California fought back systematically and aggressively when In-N-Out dared to defy government mandates. October 14th, 2021. San Francisco shut down In-N-Out's only location in the city at Fisherman's Wharf. Not because of food safety violations, not because of health code problems, not because of customer complaints or quality issues. They shut it down because In-N-Out refused to become the vaccination police. San Francisco's strict vaccine mandate required restaurants to check proof of vaccination before allowing customers to dine indoors. The city demanded that In-N-Out employees verify vaccination status and photo identification for every single customer wanting to eat inside. In-N-Out refused completely and publicly. Chief Legal and Business Officer Arnie Wensinger released a statement that became national news overnight and sparked intense debate. "We refuse to become the vaccination police for any government. It is unreasonable, invasive, and unsafe to force our restaurant associates to segregate customers into those who may be served and those who may not." The statement was direct, unambiguous, and inflammatory in a city that had enthusiastically embraced vaccination mandates as public health necessities. The San Francisco Department of Public Health responded by closing the Fisherman's Wharf location immediately on October 14th. It was the only time the agency ordered a restaurant closure specifically over a vaccine mandate violation. Every other restaurant in San Francisco complied without protest. Only In-N-Out refused. Then Contra Costa County came after them with even more aggression just 12 days later. In-N-Out operated 5 locations scattered across the county. Health officials shut down the Pleasant Hill location on October 26th, 2021, for the same reason San Francisco had used. 4 separate citations issued, $1,750 in fines levied. The county demanded that In-N-Out check vaccination status and photo identification for every single dine-in customer at all 5 county locations. In-N-Out made a deliberate choice. They closed indoor dining at all 5 Contra Costa County locations rather than comply with the mandate they found unreasonable. They stayed open exclusively for drive-through and takeout only, deliberately sacrificing substantial dine-in revenue to avoid forcing employees to police customers and segregate people based on vaccination status. Lynsi Snyder watched California health departments close her restaurants and fine her company for refusing to enforce policies she found fundamentally unreasonable and wrong. She watched her employees get caught in the middle of political mandates they didn't create and didn't want to enforce. She stayed quiet publicly during the immediate crisis, letting her legal team handle official statements whilst she processed what was happening. But years later, in July 2025, she spoke openly about it on the podcast Relatable with Allie Beth Stuckey. Her words revealed exactly how traumatic and difficult the experience was. There were so many pressures and hoops we were having to jump through. You know, you've got to do this. They have to wear a mask. You have to put this plastic thing up between us and our customers. It was really terrible. I look back and I'm like, man, maybe we should have just pushed even harder on some of that stuff and dealt with all the legal backlash. But that was definitely where we held the line. We're not policing our customers. That statement reveals something California politicians absolutely don't want to acknowledge or discuss. In-N-Out fought California over principles, not profits. The company could have easily complied with vaccine mandates and kept all locations open at full capacity. It would have been substantially easier and far more profitable to simply check vaccination cards and avoid closures, fines, and negative publicity. But Lynsi Snyder believed the mandates were fundamentally wrong, believed forcing minimum wage employees to segregate customers was wrong, and chose to fight publicly despite the substantial cost. costs. California punished her company for taking that principled stand. But the vaccine mandate battles were just the beginning of California systematically making business impossible for In-N-Out. In 2022, California passed Assembly Bill 257, officially known as the Fast Recovery Act. The bill created a fast food council with unprecedented power to set wages, working conditions, and health and safety standards specifically for fast food workers across the state. The law initially proposed raising minimum wage for fast food workers to $22 per hour before political pressure and industry pushback forced a compromise settling at $20 per hour when it finally took effect in 2024. In-N-Out, which had always paid substantially above minimum wage as deliberate company policy since the founding, suddenly faced government-mandated increases that affected their entire cost structure across all California locations. The company had always differentiated itself competitively by voluntarily paying well above minimum wage, attracting better workers, and reducing turnover. Now, California was forcing all competitors to match their wages, completely eliminating one of In-N-Out's key competitive advantages, while simultaneously increasing labor costs dramatically across all 281 California locations. A typical In-N-Out restaurant employing 30 to 40 workers saw annual labor costs increase hundreds of thousands of dollars overnight from the mandate alone, destroying profit margins that were already thin. But even worse than the direct cost increases was what California's cumulative policies did to In-N-Out's employees trying to build actual lives in California. The median home price in California exceeds $820,000 statewide and often exceeds $1 million in coastal areas where many In-N-Out locations operate. Young In-N-Out employees working their way up through the company, earning decent wages by national standards, could not afford to buy homes anywhere near where they worked. They could not start families. They could not build wealth through home ownership. They could not achieve the American dream despite working for a company that paid well, treated them well, and offered genuine advancement opportunities. Lynsi Snyder saw this economic reality firsthand across thousands of employees. She employed thousands of workers across California and watched them struggle desperately to survive on wages that would be genuinely comfortable anywhere else in America. Workers earning $18 to $22 per hour, which sounds decent, couldn't afford rent in California cities where one-bedroom apartments routinely cost $2,000 to $3,000 monthly. Workers earning manager salaries of $60,000 to $80,000 annually, which should be middle-class incomes, couldn't afford down payments on homes costing $800,000 to $1 million. Even workers earning six figures found home ownership increasingly impossible. The math simply didn't work. California had become economically impossible for the very workers In-N-Out depended on. Tennessee offered something completely different that California couldn't or wouldn't match. The state has zero state income tax, meaning workers keep substantially more of their paychecks. California charges 13.3% state income tax, the highest in the entire nation. Tennessee's top corporate tax rate is 6.5%. California's corporate tax rate is 8.84%, substantially higher. The Tax Foundation, which ranks all 50 states annually on business tax climate, ranked Tennessee 8th overall for business friendliness. California ranked 48th out of 50 states, ahead of only New Jersey and New York. The median home price in Tennessee is approximately $350,000. That's less than half of California's median price. Affordable housing actually exists for In-N-Out employees who want to transfer east and build lives there. A worker earning $20 per hour in Tennessee can realistically save for a down payment and buy a decent home. That exact same worker, earning the exact same wage in California, is trapped renting forever with no hope of ownership. July 18th, 2025, Lynsi Snyder made it official in the most public way possible. She announced on the conservative podcast, Relatable with Allie Beth Stuckey, that she and her 4 children would relocate permanently to Tennessee. Her exact words were carefully chosen but devastatingly clear about her feelings toward California. There's a lot of great things about California, but raising a family is not easy here. Doing business is not easy here. Now, the bulk of our stores are still going to be here in California, but it will be wonderful having an office out there, growing out there. The backlash came immediately and viciously from California media and longtime customers. Californians who had supported In-N-Out loyally their entire lives felt personally betrayed. How dare the billionaire heiress Paris abandoned California after California made her family rich. Social media exploded with genuine anger. Former loyal customers declared boycotts. California media outlets ran stories questioning her loyalty and suggesting she was abandoning her roots purely for tax breaks. The dominant narrative became that Lynsi Snyder was just another greedy billionaire choosing money over principles, which was deeply ironic, considering she had just spent years fighting California over principles at enormous financial cost. 3 days later, on July 21st, Lynsi Snyder posted a clarification video on social media, trying desperately to calm the outrage. "We're not leaving California or leaving our roots behind. Each one of our locations is here to stay. Moving into Tennessee provides our In-N-Out associates wonderful opportunities to buy a home and raise a family and be part of our expansion in a different part of the U.S. Where I raise my family has nothing to do with my love and appreciation for our customers in California. It's tough here in California, and this doesn't have to do with my love or loyalty to the state and our customers, but I love our associates, and I would love to offer them this." Read that statement carefully. She's explicitly saying California is tough. She's explicitly saying her employees deserve opportunities to buy homes and raise families that California cannot provide anymore. She's explicitly acknowledging that where she personally chooses to raise her own 4 children reflects California's systematic failures. The clarification video was meant to soften the announcement and reduce backlash, but it actually reinforced exactly how hostile California had become to families and businesses. The company had already announced in February 2025 that 200 employees would relocate to Tennessee as part of the expansion. In-N-Out is building an Eastern Territory office in Franklin, a Nashville suburb about 20 miles south of downtown Nashville. The office will serve as a co-headquarters alongside the existing California offices in Baldwin Park and Irvine. Lynsi Snyder had long planned to consolidate the 2 California offices under one roof in Baldwin Park, returning the company headquarters to its roots at the original location where her grandparents started. Now that consolidation will happen while she lives 2,000 miles away in Tennessee, running the company remotely from a state that actually wants her business. December 10th, 2025, In-N-Out opened 2 Tennessee locations simultaneously in Lebanon and Antioch. The lines were instant, massive, and completely unprecedented. Multi-hour waits became normal and expected. Traffic backed up severely onto Interstate 40, creating legitimate safety concerns. In-N-Out had anticipated massive demand and prepared accordingly for months, but even their extensive preparations proved inadequate for the actual chaos that materialized. The company purchased substantial extra land near the Lebanon location specifically to accommodate 806 cars waiting in line simultaneously. They installed multiple portable bathrooms for people waiting outside because the waits were so extraordinarily long. They hired a private traffic management company to direct traffic flow professionally. They worked directly with local police departments for 4 full months before opening, meticulously planning for the opening day chaos they knew was inevitable. December 12th, 2025, the 3rd Tennessee location opened in Murfreesboro. More lines stretching for blocks, more traffic chaos disrupting the area, more overwhelming evidence that In-N-Out brand loyalty transcends geography completely. People drove from Mississippi, Arkansas, Kentucky, Alabama, and even Georgia to try In-N-Out for the first time. Someone created an entire dedicated app called waitapp.com, exclusively for tracking real-time wait times at all 3 Tennessee locations. Because the demand was so intense, 2 full weeks after opening, the app showed drive-through wait times ranging from 27 to 44 minutes. People were still routinely waiting nearly an hour just to order burgers. The chief operating officer told media that Christmas came early for Tennessee. Governor Bill Lee personally welcomed the expansion with genuine enthusiasm California never showed. From the first time I met Lynsi and her team, we both knew In-N-Out would thrive in the volunteer state. We welcome them with open arms. That statement from a sitting governor personally greeting and celebrating a company relocating from another state shows exactly what California lost through indifference. California's Governor Gavin Newsom said absolutely nothing publicly about losing one of California's most iconic brands. No statement acknowledging the loss. No press conference explaining what happened. No acknowledgement that In-N-Out's departure represented a massive failure of California policy. Just complete silence whilst Tennessee celebrated publicly. So what exactly is California losing beyond just one company's headquarters moving? Everything that made California the center of American business innovation in the first place. Lynsi Snyder is leaving behind the state that her grandparents, Harry and Esther, deliberately chose in 1948 when they decided to build California California's first drive-through hamburger stand, the state where her grandfather literally invented the drive-through hamburger concept that revolutionized American food service forever. The state that made In-N-Out a cultural icon worth $7.3 billion through decades of customer loyalty and meticulous brand building. She looked carefully at everything California offered versus what Tennessee offered, and decided Tennessee provided dramatically more for her family and her employees than California ever could again. The Franklin office will officially open in 2026. Initial plans call for 35 Tennessee locations, eventually as In-N-Out builds out their eastern expansion systematically. The company can reach Tennessee distribution from their existing Texas beef processing facility and warehouse, allowing them to maintain their never-frozen beef standards that customers expect. They will not build a meat processing facility in Tennessee initially, but they will construct a warehouse supporting distribution across the Southeast. That infrastructure investment suggests future expansion into Arkansas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and potentially the Carolinas. Florida keeps desperately begging for In-N-Out locations. Lynsi Snyder keeps saying no for now, but Tennessee's overwhelming success might change that calculation. The East Coast keeps asking repeatedly. She keeps refusing for now, but Tennessee is clearly just the beginning of In-Out's aggressive eastern expansion away from California. California's official response to Lynsi Snyder's departure has been defensive, dismissive, and incredibly revealing. Governor Gavin Newsom has not commented publicly at all about losing one of California's most iconic homegrown brands. State officials continue aggressively pushing their 2035 mandate, requiring all new cars sold in California to be zero-emission electric vehicles. They continue raising minimum wages beyond what small businesses can absorb. They continue adding regulations faster than businesses can possibly comply. They continue treating successful businesses like In-N-Out as cash cows to be milked for tax revenue rather than partners to be supported. It's the exact same destructive pattern that drove out Chevron, Oracle, Tesla, Hewlett-Packard, and hundreds of other companies that built California's economy. Lynsi Snyder tried desperately for years to make California work. She paid substantially above minimum wage long before California mandated it, when competitors were paying less. She refused to franchise despite offers worth billions of dollars, maintaining absolute quality control across every location. She kept menu prices as low as possible, even as costs exploded from California policies. She defended California during the pandemic chaos, even as local governments shut down her restaurants for refusing to enforce mandates she found unreasonable. She gave California every possible chance to keep her. What she could not survive was watching her loyal employees unable to afford homes, despite working hard at good jobs, paying above average wages. She could not survive raising her 4 children in an environment she found fundamentally hostile to families and business. She could not survive fighting endless battles with California governments that treated her company as an enemy rather than a valuable asset. The cumulative weight of California's hostility finally became too much to bear. The numbers tell the complete story of what California is losing with In-N-Out's departure. In-N-Out employs thousands of workers across California, earning above average wages with benefits. They generate hundreds of millions in annual tax revenue for state and local governments. They draw tourism from around the entire world, with international visitors specifically planning California trips around visiting multiple In-N-Out locations. The brand is synonymous with California lifestyle and culture in ways few companies ever achieve. People internationally recognize In-N-Out as representing California. Losing the CEO and owner to Tennessee sends an unmistakable message that California can no longer take care of even its most successful, most loyal, most iconic homegrown businesses. Tennessee is actively building In-N-Out's future with investment, expansion, and growth. California is passively managing In-N-Out's past, with existing locations slowly aging. The bulk of locations will remain in California for now, because that's where the existing customer base lives, but future growth is happening entirely elsewhere. Lynsi Snyder diplomatically called it raising a family and doing business. But the timing tells a brutally different story. After pandemic mandates that arbitrarily closed locations, after vaccine mandate battles that cost substantial revenue, after watching employees systematically priced out of home ownership, after years of California treating her company as an enemy, the billionaire owner decided enough was enough. In-N-Out Burger came to California in 1948, when California was building the American dream for the entire nation. In 2025, the CEO is leaving California because that dream no longer exists there for her family or her employees. Tennessee welcomed her with open arms, rules, affordable housing, zero income tax, and genuine enthusiasm for her business. California got In-N-Out's logo on restaurant buildings that will probably still be standing and serving customers long after the company's heart, soul, and future have moved permanently to Tennessee. The California that Harry and Esther Snyder chose in 1948 no longer exists. That California welcomed businesses and entrepreneurs with open arms. That California made building wealth genuinely possible. That California supported families and communities. The California that drove Lynsi Snyder away in 2025 is systematically hostile to all of those things. She's leaving because staying became impossible. If this video helped explain why one of California's most iconic burger chains is packing up for Tennessee, share it. Send it to anyone who remembers when In-N-Out felt like part of California's identity. To friends working at California companies, quietly waiting for the day their CEO makes the same announcement. To parents trying to raise families here